She found me on Facebook. My ex out of nowhere. Her husband had left her for a 23-year-old coworker. She was 36 now, I was 38, and her ex was 43. They had 3 daughters, 8, 4, and 3 years old. She told me she saw my face and couldn't breathe. Said I looked amazing while she had aged. That kind of thing. Apparently, she tracked me down through our old college alumni group. When I joined, I never expected this. I answered, keeping it friendly, but the pain came rushing back. I had buried her memory, spent 3 years crawling out of the wreckage of her betrayal, and now, just like that, it was fresh again. I remembered the way she laughed with her friends back then, betting she'd never date me. One of them even told me later how they had convinced her I was weak, not good enough, that she needed a real man. It was petty, ridiculous. Maybe they were jealous. Maybe they just liked controlling her. I warned her back then, don't tell them everything about us. If you ever say you're sad or hurting, they'll use it against you. She cried and said she didn't know who to trust. In the end, she trusted them more than me. And she cheated, over and over. 10 guys, including some of our mutual friends. This was back in the mid-2000s. Her excuse? She was drunk. She tried to fix things, but the trust was gone. I gave it my best shot, but I couldn't live with it. We broke up. It hurt like hell. I missed her touch, her laugh. I didn't fully let go until years later when I ran into an old friend at a bookstore. We talked, and I asked about her. She forgot about you fast, he said. She never looked back. She started dating right away, multiple guys, including another one of our friends. One by one, all of my friends became hers. And the worst part? They covered for her. Lied to me. Told her only the worst things about me. Then she got married. She mentioned it in her message. She also said she had seen me once during the pandemic. She was doing well, had a great paying job, something she was grateful for in hard times. I told her I was unemployed, that I was doing nothing, just to kill any interest she might have had. Then she told me her husband had cheated, shattered her. She couldn't stop crying. It had happened in 2019. She tried to save the marriage, but then he told her his mistress was pregnant. The divorce was quick. She wanted full custody of the kids. He would visit them occasionally. Said it was the least he could do after what he'd put her through. She admitted something else. Her sister and friends had chosen that man for her. They approved of him completely. He wasn't attractive or charming, but he was responsible. Took care of his family. Had his priorities straight. He was the one she picked over me. Then she asked about my life. Was I married? Kids? No, I told her. She sent me old pictures of us. Like none of it had ever happened. Like she hadn't destroyed me. I felt the anger rising. How could she think this was okay? Had she really forgotten how we ended? She had chosen her friends over me. She had thrown me away, left me with nothing. I had never mattered to her. And now, because she'd lost her looks, because her husband had walked out on her, she thought she could just come back? I kept my cool. Then she asked to hear my voice. Can I call you? I hesitated. Then I said yes. As soon as I said hello, she broke down sobbing. I can't believe it's really you, she whispered between gasps. I've missed your voice so much. I can't breathe. They were real tears. Are you okay? I asked. Don't cry. She kept talking, telling me she couldn't stop thinking about me, about my smile, the way I made her laugh, how I was always so spontaneous, even how I smelled. I stayed calm, but inside, my emotions were a storm. I had loved this woman once, a long time ago, and now she was nothing but a painful echo. She asked to see me, just once. I hung up. She texted me immediately. I'm sorry. I answered. Sorry for what? She didn't know how to reply. Then she said, can I explain in person? It would be easier. I shut it down. Better not. Pandemic restrictions. We can eat outside. I need to see you. I don't think I can take this. She confessed that she had listened to the wrong people, that it had been so hard, that she had cried for days, unsure what to do. She told me something I hadn't expected. She had cheated on me on purpose, to make me hate her, because she was told I'd never be successful. That guys like me, nice guys, always ended up cheating in the end. So she did it first, at a party, with multiple people, because she knew otherwise. I would never leave her. She told me she couldn't choose me over her friends and family because they never liked me. I didn't want to hear it. She had already lost everything. Her husband had left. She had no one. And yet, here she was, expecting sympathy. I kept my tone even. Please, don't bring this up, I said. It hurts to hear it. I don't want to be angry. It's in the past. Let's leave it there. Focus on your kids. Maybe you'll meet a single dad and build something new. Later, I talked to my aunts and cousins about it. They didn't mince words. She's the devil, one of them said. A wolf in sheep's clothing. Don't waste another second on her. She never loved you, another added. You were always too kind, and she knew it. That's why she thinks you'll pity her now. One of my aunts gave me something to think about. When you were hurting, was she ever there for you? If the roles were reversed, would she be doing for you what you're considering doing for her? The answer was obvious. No, she wouldn't. Then, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, her friends messaged me. They had the audacity to say that if I ever really loved her, I'd give her another chance. That made my blood boil. Give her another chance? Love her again? What about me? She shattered me, left me with nothing. And now they wanted to make me feel guilty for not coming back? It was absurd. I answered. I never wanted to hurt her. But she chose that guy over me. How would you feel? One of her friends responded, I understand. But just because she has kids doesn't mean she can't love you. She loved you once. Forgive her and move on. You're not 20 anymore. The kicker? The woman saying this was the same one who convinced my ex I wasn't good enough. The one who introduced her to the man she eventually married. And now she wanted me to take her back? Then, 2 days later, I got a message from her father. My daughter is suffering. She needs closure. Can you at least help her get it? I was stunned. Closure? Why was I the one responsible for giving her that? Where was she when I needed closure? When I was drowning in the pain she left me with. She didn't care back then. And now her father, the same man who despised me and adored the guy she married, the guy who cheated on her, had the nerve to ask me to take her back? It was insane. I was grateful to my family for opening my eyes. Because the truth was crystal clear. They were trying to push me into cleaning up the mess she had made of her life. They wanted me to be her safety net now that she had been used and discarded. And that enraged me. Update, the meeting. I wrestled with myself for days. But in the end, I made a mistake. I met her. I shouldn't have answered her Facebook message. Shouldn't have picked up her call. But I did. And that led me here. When I arrived, she was already outside the restaurant, waiting. She saw me first. I didn't recognize her at first. She had aged, gained some weight. Then I saw her covering her face with her hands, crying. It was her. She ran up and hugged me. I didn't hug her back. My arms stayed at my sides. She made a scene. People were staring. An older woman walked past and asked, Are you married? Did you just come back from the service? No, I said. Just an old friend from college. The woman raised an eyebrow. She's way too emotional for just an old friend. You two look good together. Even then, I knew this was a mistake. She was too emotional, too dramatic. And people watching us assumed we were in love, that we were about to kiss. I kept myself composed. We ordered food and ate outside. She kept smiling at me like everything was fine, like we were old lovers reunited by fate. She showed me pictures of her daughters, saying how much they looked like their father. She was happy. I wasn't. I played along. After we ate, I suggested we go somewhere quieter. Let's walk to the park, I said. Sit on a bench. Talk. She agreed. When we sat down, I got straight to the point. So, why did you want to meet? She looked me in the eyes. Because I miss you, she said. I need you to listen. Please don't be angry. She admitted she wasn't good with words. She admitted she had ruined everything. And then she said something that made my blood turn cold. If I hadn't gone through everything I did, if I hadn't been with those men, if I hadn't married him, if he hadn't left me, I would never have realized that you were the one. I snapped. I had held my tongue for too long. At first, I stayed calm. Let's get this straight, I said. You cheated on me. You're still friends with the people who dragged my name through the dirt. The ones you made out with at parties. The ones you slept with. I took a breath. You left me. The one person who loved you more than anyone. The one person who trusted you completely. The one person who had no one else. You threw me away. You left me with nothing. You did that. I looked her in the eye and asked, Are you still friends with them? She started crying. Yes. I shook my head. You betrayed me. And now you expect me to just walk back into your life because your husband cheated and left you for a younger woman? She sobbed. I understand. No, I don't think you do, I said. Do you realize how insane it is for you to even suggest this? Like I should feel lucky to have won some kind of prize. What exactly am I supposed to be getting out of this? What do you have that someone younger doesn't? She kept crying, but I didn't stop. You already cheated on me. You already abandoned me. You still talk to the same people who convinced you I wasn't good enough. You chose them over me, over and over. And after all that, you married someone else and had kids with him. I leaned forward. That tells me everything. That tells me I never really mattered to you. You used me. You threw me away. And now, what? You think I'm some fool who's just going to take you back? She was shaking, her breathing uneven. I don't know what to say, she gasped. I don't know. I regret it every single day. Her panic attack was in full force now. I stared at her. You forgot about me, I said quietly. I know that for a fact. She looked up, confused. Who told you that? It doesn't matter, I snapped. You were out dating immediately after you left me. Meanwhile, I was stuck feeling guilty, wondering if I had done something wrong. And now, even after all these years, you're still lying to me. She shook her head, but I wasn't done. You never asked about me. Never even thought about me. I know people showed you old videos of us 3 years after you dumped me. You didn't even blink. Didn't shed a single tear. Her lip quivered. I'm not telling you this to hurt you, I said, because I know exactly what you'll do next. You'll run off to your sisters and your friends, and they'll tell you the same nonsense they always did, that I was never good enough for you, that you deserve better. She opened her mouth, but I didn't let her speak. I loved you, I said. I wanted a life with you. I wanted you to be the mother of my children. If you had married me, I would have been by your side no matter what. She wiped her face. I know. Her phone rang. It was her sister. She had been babysitting and needed to leave for work soon. That was the end of our conversation. I walked her to her car. Before she got in, she tried to hug me again. I told her no. She wouldn't let go. I stood there, unmoving, as she buried her face against me, inhaling deeply. I missed your scent, she murmured. I missed everything about you. I said nothing. That night, before I went to bed, she sent me a message. I won't stop until I win you back. You asked me what I have that's special? Nothing. You were right. I gave myself to others, but I never felt with them what I felt with you. I fought against my own heart, let others make my choices for me, and I paid the price for it. You deserve someone new, someone younger, someone who hasn't been through what I have. But all I can do now is try to prove myself. If you don't forgive me, I'll understand. I never answered. Update 2, the last straw. After that night, I cut her off. She kept messaging me. Eventually, she stopped. Then, right before Christmas, she sent me another message. A long text. A voice message. She wanted to know what I was doing for the holidays. Then came the emotional manipulation. She sent some quote about forgiveness, about life lessons. A story about someone who only learned what mattered after it was too late. It was obvious what she was trying to say. She was comparing herself to that person, saying she hadn't realized the pain she caused until she lost everything. That now, she finally understood how I had felt all those years ago. I ignored it. Then, after Christmas, her friend messaged me, called me a pathetic excuse for a man, said I was a coward for not forgiving her, that I was weak for holding a grudge, that a real man would never do what I was doing, that I was the one hurting her now, that if I had truly loved her, I would have given her another chance, and that my love must have been fake all along, because now that she was older and not as attractive, I was showing my true colors, proving that I had only ever cared about her looks. That was it. I snapped. I replied, and what exactly do I get out of this? Her friend, what do you mean? Me. She cheated on me. She left me. She never once thought about me. Then she married someone else, had kids with him. And the man she married? You introduced them. You told her years ago that I wasn't worth anything. Silence. Then, finally, her friend sent one last message. You know what? This conversation is over. You lost her. This is 2020. Women deserve better. I laughed out loud. She had no response to the fact that she was the one who pushed my ex toward the man who ended up breaking her, that she had supported their marriage, only for it to blow up in her face. And now, instead of taking any responsibility for her part in it, she was attacking me, like I was the bad guy, like I owed my ex something. It was ridiculous. The truth? I still pity my ex. She was naive, weak-minded, never capable of thinking for herself. She let everyone else make her decisions, and she paid for it. But that's not my problem anymore. I shut down her toxic friend. I shut down all of them. And I'm finally done. 15 years. That's how long it had been since I last saw this woman. And somehow, this was my fault? This whole situation was just a pathetic attempt to shift blame either onto me or off herself. I blocked her toxic friend, But she kept finding ways to bypass the block, leaving messages that I simply ignored. The funniest part? I never once responded to my ex. Oh, and I forgot to mention, her friend actually had the nerve to guilt trip me, saying, "How could you? This will be her first New Year's alone." Seriously? We're in the middle of a pandemic. Large gatherings were banned. Did she really think that kind of emotional manipulation would work on me? I hope people take something from this. Always avoid women with controlling, manipulative, and pushy friends. I had the distinct feeling that this so-called friend was messaging me just to report back to my ex, to tell her she had put me in my place. That way, she could save face. Because at the end of the day, this woman was the same person who had once advised my ex to dump me and then introduced her to the guy she ended up marrying, the same guy who cheated on her. Now, she wanted to wash her hands of her role in all of this. And my ex? She had always been setting up a backup plan. I didn't see it back then, but I see it now. Even when she was with her ex before me, she would trash talk him to me, tell me how cold and distant he was, act like he was an idiot. She wanted me to hate him. And then, as soon as I was ready, boom, she jumped to me. After that, she told her friends and family that her ex had been awful to her. And now? Now, she had done the exact same thing to me. A while back, I ran into her ex-boyfriend, the one she had painted as such a horrible person. Turned out, he was a great guy. He had no idea she had been spreading lies about him. When I told him, he was genuinely shocked. He said he had always wondered why people treated him weirdly after they broke up. Then he told me something that made my blood run cold. "I knew about you," he said, "but she told me you were just some friend from college. Just a friend." I showed him an old message from her on my phone, one where she had called him a useless drunk who never gave her any attention. He stared at it in disbelief. She had rewritten their entire relationship, just like she had rewritten ours. I won't lie. The only reason I haven't blocked my ex on social media is because I want her to see my life now. I want her to watch as younger women comment on my pictures, as my ex's gorgeous, successful women interact with me. I know it eats her alive, and I haven't replied to a single one of her messages. Not one. When I saw her in person, she wasn't the radiant, confident woman I had once loved. She kept telling me how handsome I looked, how she felt ugly next to me. She wasn't used to not getting attention, to not being admired. Maybe that's karma. The funny thing? I was always kind to her. I never yelled, never tried to hurt her, even when she hurt me. Other guys in my position might have taken revenge, humiliated her, made her pay. But I didn't, because I had already moved on. All that was left were painful memories. Back in college, whenever we had an argument, she would immediately run to her sisters and friends to cry about it. And they told her exactly what she wanted to hear. It's not your fault. She never could handle guilt, never could admit when she was wrong. I remember her telling me once that her sister had advised her to give me an ultimatum, to make a list of demands. The most ridiculous part? Once, when we were dating, she actually broke down crying and told me her friends thought I was weak. Why? Because they didn't like the way I shook hands with some girl. Because I was a pretty boy who played football. They convinced her I would cheat on her someday, all because of how I looked. She let them poison her mind. And the kicker? Her friends were all unattractive women with either unattractive boyfriends or no boyfriends at all. Even her ex-husband, the one they all approved of, was neither charismatic nor good-looking. I don't want to sound shallow, but this isn't something I made up. A female friend once told me something that stuck with me. Toxic women are the most shallow of all. When they can't get the best, most successful man, they start resenting their friends who can. They want to pull them down. That's why they convinced my ex that I was too good-looking and would cheat. And yet, the man they approved of, the one they swore was the right choice, cheated on her and left. My ex surrounded herself with friends who only told her what she wanted to hear. These women fed her ego, always agreeing with her, always reinforcing the idea that she was never wrong, no matter what she did. And she loved it. I remember one of them telling her, "You should try different men before settling down." She told me that herself. These same women, these same so-called friends, cried when one of my own friends told them how deeply in love she was with me. One of them, the toxic, overweight one, burst into tears. "You won't spend time with us anymore," she sobbed. Her sister wasn't any better. She was the one who told her to give me an ultimatum or make a list of demands in our relationship. And then there was her father, strict, military man. He had all these rules about what a real man should do. If a man didn't open doors for a woman, unacceptable. If a man didn't do this or that, not a real man. So my ex absorbed those attitudes. She started nitpicking. "Why didn't you hold my hand when we walked through the mall? I was being graded constantly, like I had to prove myself. Meanwhile, the man that her father, her family, and her friends approved of, the so-called real man, he cheated on her. I was the one who stayed loyal, but I was discarded anyway. Why? Because I was the pretty boy. And in their minds, pretty boys always cheat. Funny how that turned out.